Cincinnati Style is brought to you by Dugout Mugs. Look, everybody, we got the hookup for you. Just go to dugoutmugs.online/craft and you're going to get 10% off your entire order. That's it. No need to use a code. Just use that link and you get 10% off added directly to your order. Drink from a bat just like we do here on the show. Go to dugoutmugs.online/craft and get 10% off today.
Cincinnati Style is also brought to you by Moral Labs. Drink one bottle of morning recovery while you're partying and bounce back quickly the next morning, guaranteed. Go on over to moralabs.com and use the code SPORTS at checkout for 20% off your non-subscription purchase.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati Style. I am Mike. With me, as always, is Scott. Joe, absent this week. What it do, baby? There we go. We got our Joe fix.
Seems odd that Browns lose and Joe's nowhere.
That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, I wasn't going to say it, but I'm glad you said it. This is Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati Style, the drunkest Cincinnati takes around, just like the chili. If you ain't from here, you ain't gonna like this. It's been a hot minute, man. How you doing?
Happy new decade of Cincinnati sports. Let's turn the page on what was the last decade, because a little rough.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
I think we absolutely should turn the page and forget that last decade ever happened.
Oof. Lot of forgettable moments throughout the 20-teens. Yeah, no, been a ride, but holidays are good. You good?
Yeah, man, everything was good.
Awesome.
It is what it is. Christmas with kids.
Bengals doubled the win total while we were gone. That's a thing.
That is the thing. And it was against the Browns.
Oh, man.
I love it. We will get into that. We'll touch on it. I mean, football season's over. I got some Reds talk.
Oh, man.
I mean, you know how excited I am whenever there's Reds news, and Joe ain't here to rein me in, so sucks to suck, everybody.
Hope you like the Reds.
It's going to be pretty Reds heavy today. I guess we could probably get to the Bengals first, maybe.
Let's do Bengals first, only because it happened a while ago, and there's not much to say.
I think that's fair. Let's go ahead and I apologize without Joe here. It is what it is. Transitions are going to be weird, man. That's all I can say about this. But yeah, so the Bengals end the season with a W over the Browns. Cool.
Yeah. It was, the game, it kind of felt like that might be the case. But then again, I say that, how many times this season did we think, Bengals should win this game despite how things have gone, and then they, came in and crapped the bed. And this one, the Browns, the ultimate, just as disappointing as the Bengals have been to the local fans, on a national scale, the Browns were easily the most disappointing team in the NFL this season. And so what better way to cap off their disappointing season than to finish it out with a loss to the Bengals and then
finish
lose
it
their
off
head
with
coach.
2 losses. They lost twice. They lost to the Ravens
right.
and then the Bengals. Like, they
Right.
really limped
But
in.
losing to the Ravens, you're like, everybody does that. And losing to the Bengals, you're like, oh, this is select company this year. It is just us and the Jets. Was that the one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It took me a second.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, Miami won, so yeah. But yeah, so rough go for the Bengals, and or rough go for the Browns rather. And if you're the Bengals, it was one of those. It felt like a swan song for Andy Dalton, and seeing him leave.
I'm glad to see him get the W.
Sure,
in his
it
last
was
game in a Bengals uniform.
And the Bengals weren't playing for anything. They had locked up the number 1 overall pick, so they couldn't screw that up.
Yep.
So fans couldn't be pissed where it's like, oh, well, you won, but now they're going to pick second, and we missed out on Joe Burrow or whatever. So it's like, hey, man, just go out there, play loose. You're going against your in-state rivals. It's the last game of the season. Everything kind of aligned perfectly. So it's like they get the W. Andy Dalton's probably going to move on. Could be the last we've seen. Like it felt like kind of the end of an era, although it's the beginning of one. Very weird. It's like it was the end of the last regime finally, I feel like. And like I feel like now the Taylor era can officially begin, because I've always maintained, man, that last year when they got rid of Marvin, that there were just other things that they needed to do with this roster to kind of turn the page completely, and they didn't. It's like they turned the page. It was like when you read one of those choose your own adventure books and you go to the page they tell you to go to, and it's like, oh crap, I died. Let me go back and go back to the one and choose the opposite one to get the right ending. That's kind of what this season felt like, where it's like, okay, well, we're going to bring in a new coach, and we're kind of, it's a new day, and hey, we're heading in a direction, but we still got these guys that we, are from the old regime, and we know probably aren't going to be around when this team gets to where it wants to be. So this feels like finally like closing the book on that, and now we'll get to find out. Like, Taylor had a lot of downs, and there's a few ups you can point to, but I think next year you get these guys in that he wants, and you've moved on from Andy Dalton, and we can really see like his stamp and see where this team's going to go and get an accurate judgment on him as a head coach. I feel like this year was kind of like a wash to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, on one side of it, I feel like it going into the season, everybody was like, the Dolphins are tanking for the number 1 overall pick. Mm-hmm. And that team ended up winning, 5 games? Like
I think they finished with like the 4th or 5th pick.
So, yeah, the number 5 pick overall. Yeah. Like they went into this season as the team that was supposed to be the garbage team,
right?
And ended up with the number 5 overall pick. The Bengals weren't supposed to be good, but
not this bad.
They were awful. So I almost feel like this season is a bit of an indictment on Taylor, but you can chalk it up to he's new. It's first year head coach.
And that's what I'm saying. Like he was saddled with this half step measure of getting a new team, but there were still like enough expectations. I'm not saying that he was perfect and that he didn't make mistakes, but if you're looking at it from, I guess, a fan perspective and his perspective, it can be, all right, I made these mistakes, or he made these mistakes with the roster he had, and it wasn't necessarily the roster he wanted. He got that late start on the coaching, getting the coaches he wanted in there, so hopefully there'll be some coaching changes.
Yeah, we can hope so.
There hasn't been yet, but once everything calms down with the playoffs and everything, you hope that maybe there's a little bit of coaching turnover. And it just feels like this will be a more like this year he'll take more of the heat. Like I don't feel like this year you could necessarily say he was bad, based on everything that happened. Like I said, he made some mistakes, but you couldn't really pin everything on him because it's like he was going to make some mistakes as a rookie head coach, but they were compounded because of the way this roster was constructed. So next year, I feel like he's not out of excuses, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, Taylor, now it's more on you. Like, you're going to take a little bit more of the heat if this team looks completely inept next year versus this year, where it's like, it might have been unexpected, but when you look at it in hindsight, you're like, he was kind of screwed a little bit.
It's also, if you look back at the season, and I know it didn't happen a lot, but it did happen often enough that they had the ball, driving at the end of a game to potentially tie it or take the lead as time expired.
In a position to win.
You needed one stop from your defense in order to preserve a lead. And, this team, yes, they only won 2 games, but they could have, had 4 wins or potentially 5 wins. And it's like,
we talked about it a few weeks back, and I guess now it would have been more like a month or so back, but we talked about it like, and this, of course, this will be tough for you to look up while I'm kind of vamping on, but what did they end up against the spread? What was the ultimate like Bengals record against the spread? Because that's kind of, it's a cheating way of doing this, but if we can look at it and see what their record against the spread was, we can kind of see, well, all right, they were this record-wise, but Vegas thought that they were going to lose X amount of games, and they beat the spread. So it's like we can kind of use that to fudge their record a little bit and look at it and see, well, all right, they did this. So
yeah, so looking, I was able to find it pretty quickly here. Against the spread, they were 6-10.
okay, so 6
It's
and
not
10.
bad. That's not bad against the spread.
If-
And you know what? Good teams cover the spread.
Right. Well, no, but absolutely. But I mean, if you had said, if you came into this year and their record, they ended this season at 6-10, you'd have said that's a pretty solid coaching
I think we
debut.
picked 6 games at the beginning of the year. I think we were like, they could win 6.
I think I said 4. 4 was what I had them pinned on, but assuming everything went correctly,
Yeah.
I think like 6 was well within their ability. Like that was, probably best case scenario. But so they went 6-10 against the spread. I think that's a good foundation when you're
Yeah.
looking at it, and if you're trying to kind of shine some light and like look at a
You know,
bright
that's what I'm gonna
spot.
say. The Bengals went 6-10 this year. I'm never gonna say they won 2 games. I'm gonna be like, they went 6-10.
They went 6-10 and got Joe Burrow.
That's good.
They got the future and went 6-10. How about that? And I mean, let's just move on into it. We all assume, like, and now it's draft season, and the Bengals are on the clock.
On the clock, baby.
So all things point to Burrow. I can't imagine between now and late April they go a different route. There's just too many things that hinge on having the number 1 overall pick, needing a quarterback, him being the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, it's just like, even if there are questions, because there's between now and then we're gonna hear him dissected, and people will say, "Well, he had to transfer, and it was a 1-year wonder.
Didn't do well the year before at
Right.
LSU. This was
Sure."
yeah.
And so there's going to be all sorts of noise that comes out, but they're in such a position that they really can't afford not to take him.
Right.
There's no way. I mean, unless somebody came to you and were like, "We'll give you our next 40 number 1 overall picks for this year." Picks like. Well, then, they'd be stupid, obviously, to turn that down. But, barring some insane deal that somebody offers, they're just in a position where they kind of have to. He's the local kid, too. So
Right, he's got
ties.
that the Ohio tie.
And if you're the Browns, they're thinking about it. It's like jersey sales because of money. Like, I mean, so, I mean, it's easier to sell quarterback jerseys. Like, there's all these reasons, external and internal, why you're going to take Joe Burrow. So, I mean, it's looking like Joe Burrow will be coming to Cincinnati. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, from where I sit here on January, 8th, it'd be the right pick. Like, I can't argue against it at this point in time. Like, I mean, he's done everything you could ask. He's got the national championship coming up. Good chance to win that. But I mean, even unless he comes out there and just throws like 12 picks
Or gets hurt in that national title.
Sure,
game.
yeah. I mean, if he gets injured, that would change things a bit. But yeah, I mean, he would have to. Something catastrophic would have to happen
Right.
between now and then for him not to be the pick. So
Now, the more I think about Joe Burrow leading the Bengals, my feelings can best be summed up as
Good. Feel real good.
that's basically.
forgot about it. It's so accurate, though. Yeah, that was Joe might not have been here, but that's you were on top of that one.
drop perfectly right there, baby.
Yeah,
No, I think Burrow at number 1 is the way to go. The only way I can see, and you're hemorrhaging fans at this point. Like, there's nobody at Paul Brown Stadium. Nobody was there this year, so you need to do something to get people back in the seats. The only
quarterback is the only way you do that.
Right. And before this season, what I would have said is trade that number 1 overall pick, because you
Sure.
need help everywhere. Get an offensive lineman, trade back, get an offensive lineman,
Right.
stockpile some picks, whatever. Tank next year and get Trevor Lawrence from Clemson. Like, that was my plan going in. And then you see all the empty seats. You see the fans just done with the team, and it's like, no, you have to take Burrow. You have to win back the city, and that's the way to do it, is to get your next franchise quarterback in there right now.
Well, and again, it's an easy sell. I mean, you're not coming in like this isn't. Being a 49ers guy, I mean, this isn't trying to sell your fan base Alex Smith, where it's like, well, there's a question. There's these 2 quarterbacks, and which one,
Right.
is it going against the Pac-12 guy or the guy that had the gaudy numbers? It's literally Heisman winner, put up great numbers. He's in the title game. Who knows? This time next week, we'll be talking about how he won the national title. I mean, there's all these things that's like, this is about the easiest sell as it gets for a team that needs a quarterback moving forward. and who's a local guy. The Browns pretty much lucked into this. Is what I'm.
The
thinking,
Bengals?
Like. Well, no, the Browns.
Oh,
the Brown family.
Oh, the Brown.
Yeah,
family.
no.
I thought the Cleveland
No,
Browns.
no. Sorry. Yeah, no. The Browns as a franchise, they're screwed. They've got their own issues. But the Brown family lucked into this because it's the easiest sell you can possibly make for this. There's no like super lingering questions. Yeah, people are gonna nitpick him only doing it for 1 year, but there isn't that. Oh, well, he's one of those Heisman. This isn't like a Landry Jones type situation where it's like, oh, well, he put up gaudy numbers against inferior competition or inferior defense. No, he's in the SEC. Like, he did every single thing that you could want when you're looking at a number 1 overall pick as a quarterback for a franchise that needs it.
Okay, so I think we are on the same page here. Joe Burrow is the consensus number 1 pick, which means that Mike Brown will take an offensive lineman with that number 1 overall pick and ruin everything for Bengals fans. Let's talk some Reds.
I mean, if they screw this one up, man.
They're going to. I have no faith in this organization. They will screw this up royally. They will either trade back and take, like picks and get an offensive lineman, which is fine. But then next year they'll screw it up and they'll not get their quarterback and they're going to have to scramble in free agency. Or they're going to do something stupid and bring in like Phillip Rivers to replace Andy Dalton. And I have no faith that Mike Brown will do the right thing and take Burrow at number 1.
Outside of Burrow and Chase Young, they have no other option.
He's going to take Jake Fromm from Georgia because he just declared today. He's going to be like, that's my guy. That's the guy. That's the one.
The sad part is it's not like I'm not 100% sure that they won't do that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. No faith.
It's so easy for them not to screw this up that I'm just like, but they won't, right?
Washington is looking at every mock draft and they're like, we're getting Chase Young. But wait, the Bengals are picking before us? We're going to have to choose between Joe Burrow or Chase Young at number 2 because the Bengals are going to do something crazy and take neither of these guys.
Think like number 2 behind the Bengals might be the worst draft position in the history of the NFL because you're like, we've got to scout everybody. We have no idea what they're doing. Like usually you have a consensus number 2 guy and you're like, well, he's going to be there. There's no doubt about it. But, Washington has Haskins, so they're not going to draft the quarterback. So if for some reason the Bengals don't take Burrow, they're sitting there like, well, what the hell do we do now?
Detroit's hanging out at 3 like, are we about to get Joe Burrow? We're about to get Joe Burrow because Cincinnati's going to do something stupid.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a really wild thing if Cincinnati screws this up. But I'm confident that they'll just they're lazy enough. The Browns will be like, who's the consensus number 1? Let's take him.
And this one belongs to the Reds.
No faith in that team. No faith in Mike Brown.
But the Reds, man.
The Reds. I have all the faith in the Reds. It has been.
Print the playoff tickets if you're Mike.
Dude, I'm there. I am calling for season tickets because I am sold. Shogo signs. They get Shogo to come to Cincinnati, which, by the way, I was talking to Drew, a good friend of the show, and I said something about Shogo signing this week, and he was like, Ohtani? And I was like, do you mean Shohei? No, not him.
Wait, that was like a decade ago.
He was like, I just wanted to pretend like I knew baseball for a second.
Fair enough.
But no, Shogo Akiyama is coming in from Japan. The Reds finally have a true center fielder, something they haven't had in a long time. That it really kind of starts to shape that outfield, which has just been a hodgepodge of, hey, let's just throw these guys out there and hope that they're able to do something in this outfield. So now you're able to start kind of narrowing in a little bit. You've got a bunch of guys that are competing for those corner outfield spots. Senzel, Winker, Van Meter, like all of these guys are still in the mix. Aquafina, yeah, your boy Aquafina.
It's my favorite Red, Aquafina.
Double A battery is still in there. And then, the Reds are still tied to Ozuna as potentially bringing him in. That would shore up one of those corner outfield spots. You can start to look at moving a guy like Senzel and maybe getting Francisco Lindor to come in and play shortstop and upgrade that Freddie Galvis position.
Okay, calm down, man.
And then
you're
the infield.
Now you're doing that crazy fantasy.
It's not crazy. It's not crazy.
No, you're doing that fantasy baseball thing.
Read MLB trade rumors. This
we
is
could
what
have
the talk
Francisco
is.
Lindor. Like,
This
no,
is
come
what
on.
the talk is. They're tied to all of these guys.
I know.
And
I know.
Okay, but let's back up. Let's reel me in for a second.
Yeah. Let's you back up.
Okay,
I'm backed up.
Let's reel me in for a second. Let's say they only get Ozuna, which it could happen. They could get Ozuna from the Cardinals.
Sure.
They could. That's a
Well, I mean, he's a
very
free agent,
real,
so they don't have to
right.
worry about
And rumors are heating up about that. So if you've got Ozuna, Shogo, and then pick a name out of a hat for the other corner outfield position, Senzel, Winker, whoever.
I'm
Winker.
going Aquafina.
Okay, you can go AA battery. Then in the infield, you got Votto, Moustakas, Freddie Galvis, Suarez, and Tucker Barnhart. That's a solid lineup. Compare that with the rotation that they have, thanks to Wade Miley getting thrown in there as the number 5 starter. This is a playoff team, baby.
I just don't want to I don't want to rain on your parade in January.
It's
like
a playoff team.
in January, like it all sounds good. I just because we talked about it already on the show. Like, you know, as the show started, as the season was wrapping up, and it was just like the embarrassment of the numbers behind everything that was put up by Suarez, like where it was just like it was Suarez and a bunch of guys, and like historically bad, just like the drop off, like it was insanely nuts. And so yeah, I mean, on paper, it sounds like really good. I guess my only thing is, and I'm willing to concede, at the end of the season and through the first parts of the postseason, the rotation, when you look at it, when you're getting a full year out of
Castillo.
Yeah, well, no. Castillo's already there, so you're getting the full Trevor Bauer experience.
Oh,
not
gotcha.
the trade
Yeah.
deadline.
Right.
So, like, you're looking at the rotation, and then assuming you're getting Sonny Gray back at what he was this year, and not, he doesn't turn back into a pumpkin or whatever. Like, the rotation on paper was already pretty solid. We could agree on that. We didn't have any arguments.
right.
Like, and then they signed Miley, and that, number 5. Like,
Shore it up, baby. Just
the rotation, I think, is playoff worthy. Like, just
playoff. Say it again. Say playoff again.
Playoff. I said playoff worthy.
I didn't hear that part. I heard playoff.
Okay, cool. It's just, this lineup had such a far way to go, and I don't know what to. The problem with the Japanese import thing is this is like, so Ichiro kind of was the first one who was ultra successful, and he was a guy that we had heard about for a long time, but then all the guys since then and in between have kind of been these tweener guys where it's like, they have good moments. And then, okay, Ohtani, obviously he got hurt, but for the Angels, he was another one that it looks like he's going to be another real deal. There's just been a lot of guys that have struggled to make that transition or just been okay with it. And I saw he's 31. That's not like super old, but it's past like the prime time. I mean, he's put up decent numbers, but because you just don't know what you're going to get for him, you say it's shoring up center field, and I'm like, shoring up is a tough bridge for me to cross.
Well,
I'll say
hang
that
on.
it's like he's solid enough potentially.
Hang on. If you look at the Reds center field over the last several years.
Well, I mean, are you talking about just defensively, or are you talking about like hitting wise? Because I mean,
both.
Okay, because I was gonna say it was like Hamilton was fine.
Hamilton was fantastic defensively.
He hit like
He was.
I would.
Yeah, exactly. He could not hit the ball. Hamilton could not hit the ball. But after that, you get Irvin played some time in center field, and he could hit a little bit better, but defensively,
like, it's definitely been a black hole for the Reds.
It
for
has
a
always
while
been
now.
like, who is you? They were just throwing guys out in center field.
Sure.
There was no center fielder that was being played. I mean, Hamilton, they converted him to a center fielder, and defensively was fine, but he couldn't hit, and it was literally just like, please, dear God, walk so that this turns into a double, because otherwise, how are you even doing? Why are you even here?
Let me sum this up by saying they haven't had a true center fielder since they traded for Griffey, and then he was, forced out from injuries from not playing center. So it's been that long since they had a center fielder that you could pencil in with any confidence. Like that's what I feel like. Like, because every center fielder that I can think about for the Reds since Griffey has been exactly what you're describing, where it's just like, yeah, they've kind of just played guys out there. Like, it's never been anybody that you've had like true confidence, or that you're like, oh, that's a spot in the lineup or a spot in the positional things you're looking at. That you set it and forget it.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Since the Reds have not had a set it and forget it center fielder since Griffey, and the Griffey experience lasted about 10 minutes before injuries took over and pretty much ruined that.
Yeah, it's disappointing because that's the one position in the outfield that it's like I know left field is whatever. That's your guy that's gonna
left field
strike out.
Is the redheaded stepchild of the outfield.
Hey.
No, I know. It's just the saying, man. I don't have anything against redheads. I love redheads, but it's just it's the outfield. It's the forgotten outfield.
When
position.
Manny Ramirez can play the position at like Hall of Fame level, it's not that big of a deal.
No, it's the position that they're like, we can just put a guy there. Chipper Jones played left field. They're like, oh, this guy really swings the bat, but we don't have a position. Just throw him in left field. Okay, cool. So yeah, no, I totally get it.
And then right field is just your meathead that's like, me smash ball, me strike out 100 times. Don't care, me still hit home run. Center field is the guy that's like, okay, you need to be able to play and we need you to produce because you're supposed to be the fastest guy on the field. You're likely going to be the leadoff hitter. You got to get on base and set the table.
And to take that one step further, if you look at it, when you're looking at it up the middle, your center fielder and your shortstop, they were your superstars in Little League.
Yeah,
they were the kid. They were the kid that played your superstar in your team. So, in theory, in the bigs, they're also supposed to be one of like your biggest guys because at some point they've and obviously any superstar, a lot of teams, regardless of whatever position they played, was the man on the team. But a lot of time, those guys that are the man on their team get thrust into pitchers, shortstops, and center fielders when they get to the big league level. Right. So the fact that the Reds have just had a guy out in center field for most of the last decade. Yeah, I mean, if I hope that he does lock down the position. I just pause because it's like, well, you don't know what you're going to get from these imports. Like, until he plays major league games,
I know what I'm going to get from him. I know what I'm going to get from him.
Better than what you've had for a decade.
Yep, exactly.
Good enough.
Upgrade. I don't. Can you hit better than Billy Hamilton? Sign him. Sign him. Give him whatever he wants.
It's the closest thing they've had to set it and forget it in a decade.
Back
so
the truck up. I don't care. But like, okay, so here's where I keep trying to
real quick before we move on from that. So I haven't really read like his profile and his scouting report. Is he a contact guy? Does he have some speed? Like what is like what's his profile kind of?
Yeah, I mean he's a typical Japanese player where it's going to be slap. He's not hitting for too much power, but yes,
he's going to be halfway down the line, batting batting from the left side of the box, but he's going to have a bunch of infield singles. Okay, gotcha.
Right. I mean, he's got an OPS of 829 in his career.
Okay.
Like he's going to get on base, and that's what they need.
What type of so he wasn't putting up like big power numbers in Japan. So
no,
he's not
right. Exactly.
You're looking at a 10 to 15 home run guy, and you'd be happy with that.
I'm fine if it's no home runs. If you're on base a lot,
sure,
great.
Sure.
Be on base for Suarez. That's all I'm asking for.
And is he projecting as like a top of the lineup guy too, on top of that?
I don't think it's going to start out that way, but I think eventually that's where you got to get him to.
Okay.
Right? I mean, those type of guys that are just hitting for average are always the ones that you need.
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. Like, is he projecting to be one of those guys, or is he one of those center fielders where it's like, oh, he's batting at the bottom part of the lineup because he's a contact guy. He's going to
be the one batting 9 behind the pitcher.
Yeah.
We've done that with Billy Hamilton.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I haven't read enough about him to know like what his profile is. Like, literally, usually there's one big Japanese off-season name, or with Otani, there was a couple of years there where I'd heard of him, and this guy, it kind of just showed up out of nowhere, to be honest with you. And then he signed kind of late in this offseason.
Right.
I said late with the way the offseason goes in baseball now. It's not late until mid-June. You're like, oh, it's pretty late for a guy to be a free agent. Son.
Bryce Harper's like, yeah, this is super early, bro. You blew this one.
You got to get a better agent, man. Signing in January? What are you, crazy?
You're not supposed to sign. The season starts March 26th. You're supposed to sign March 25th, just about that time.
But yeah, no, I mean, so on paper, it's kind of like with the rotation, but I have more confidence in the rotation. But it's like this Reds team has the potential, and I guess this is all coming at a perfect time because I feel like the NL Central is kind of in a little bit of disarray.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where, and this is the other thing that's been feeding my habit is like MLB Network is projecting the Reds. There was somebody, I forget who it was, but they said the Reds could win like 96 games. I'm like, I don't put that right in my veins. Just pump it right here, please. Just keep that going.
I think that's a little ludicrous. I think the NL Central ends up being one of those, one of the divisions. I guess it was kind of like that last year. Cardinals, you can win it where you're looking at it's like we get to 87, we're in the driver's seat for winning
good.
this
Yeah.
division. Like I don't think it's going to take
and that's
96
why that
wins.
That's
for
why
them to
that
win the
Azuna
division.
signing could be huge because
Sure.
not only does that make the Reds better, that hurts the Cardinals, and
right.
that's huge. The Cubs, I feel like are like as great as they're supposed to be on paper. I will never trust that Cubs lineup. Period. I just won't do it. And then the Pirates are back to being the Pirates.
I would think for the Cubs, and we're not going to linger too much on them because this ain't about the Cubs. It's just the lineup is fine. I don't what the rotation was put together after the lineup, and so it's like no matter what they seem like one of those teams that this year could put up a bunch of runs if all the hitters go back to being themselves. But yet that rotation is like a 900-year-old John Lester and who? Like I mean, they had Cole Hamels last year. He's now with the Braves, and then what's his name? The Japanese pitcher I'm blanking. That had signed with Texas originally, and then the Cubs traded for him. Is he still in Chicago?
I don't know if he's still there.
And why am I blanking on his name?
I don't know, but I'm leaving you hanging on this one because you're the baseball guy.
I know, and again, I can picture his face, and I'm like, but he was supposed to be a big deal for the Cubs getting him in a trade, and he hasn't panned out. But so I mean, their rotation is just completely like up in the air. So it's like that's why the Cubs I don't trust because. Even if everything goes right with their offense and that goes back to normal, like they just don't have the pitching right now. And then the Cardinals, I don't know how they even won the division last year because it was like one of the quietest division.
It's because they got to play the Reds and the Pirates 900 times, and you just pad your stats at that point.
Well, and then the Brewers are coming back down to earth because they've lost some people.
Like Moustakis. Hello, playoffs. Playoffs. We are just addition by subtracting from everybody else in the NL Central. I'm
so gonna laugh while we're sitting here talking about all this, and then the Pirates win the division. Like, what the hell? The one team we didn't mention just swooped out of nowhere and won it all?
So I joke, but I sit there and I think about like last year at this time when the Reds started making moves, and all of a sudden Puig gets announced, and it's like, oh man, on paper, this team looks good. This could be interesting. And then by the All-Star break, they're eliminated and you're trading away everybody. And it's like, well, Puig's still the number 2 home run leader on the roster. He hasn't been here for 6 months, but great. Yeah, fantastic. You know who's still a free agent right now?
Puig.
Bring him back, baby. You get Azuna and Puig, and I am all in. Print the tickets. That's all. That's what it.
Nah, man, I don't want Puig. He's gonna sideline Aquafina. I don't want none of that. Nah. Puig can stay on the free agent. They don't need no damn Puig. You got Aquafina, baby. Home run every day for a time.
For a short stretch.
Yeah. For 3 weeks.
All right, so I feel like you're not on board with me on this one. You're not feeling it as much as I am.
I feel like that the NL Central is up for grabs, and I feel like the Reds have a good chance. I'm just hesitant is all. Like it just like you pointed out just now. It feels like last season where it's like things on paper look really good, but they got to play the games. Like I got to see this team through the first month. And, of course, the first month of the season is always very telling because it's like if they come out and they fall into a hole like they did last year, well, then they spend most of the season trying to get out of it. And it's like, oh, well, they went 4-27 in April and the season was effectively over.
Yeah, no 0-9 stretches like they did to start the
Right.
season
I mean,
last
so
year.
it's like that's basically it's like a check back with me at the end of April, and I'll tell you how I really feel about this Reds team because, like on paper, I do think that they could be pretty good, but I'm not ready to crown their asses yet. That's all I'm saying.
Playoffs.
Bearcats won a bowl game. Moving on. And that's the wrap on Bearcats football for the year. They won their meaningless bowl game, and cool.
Let's talk some Xavier Musketeers. I don't have the clip. I was going to play it.
I was gonna say
but
it would have been better
I
if
don't
we had
have
that
it.
perfectly
I know,
timed to
but
just roll on.
I was going to, but
Well,
then
since
I
you already
realized-
did the UC intro, let's just talk about UC basketball.
No, we're on to Xavier. We're on to
Okay.
Xavier.
Okay, cool. Well, they're playing right now or recording. What happened in that game? Did they finish?
I don't know. I was gonna go. Did they finish? I was gonna go look at that.
They finished.
I thought we were gonna talk a little bit longer about UC football. So
We
I
wrapped it
wasn't-
up before they got to the bowl game. It was like, oh, blew it against Memphis twice in the season, won a meaningless bowl game, and that's that. We'll see next year. Like there really isn't anything else to say about the Bearcat season. It was surprisingly more productive than I think anybody anticipated, but ultimately they, fell on their face at the end. And then
Fickle will be back next year.
Sure.
Enjoy him next year because he going
Yeah,
he
I
going
think-
after that.
I was just gonna say, I don't think that there's any unless the Bearcats are just.
Maybe Baylor is gonna hire him now that Rule is gone.
Wait, is that a thing? Is that a rumor?
I mean, maybe he's a
I
decently
don't think
up and
so.
coming name.
I still think he's Ohio enough that he's like it wouldn't be something that they.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm not
Everybody
saying
wants that Ohio recruiting badge.
Sure, I'm not saying that Baylor wouldn't be interested. I just don't think that that's a lateral move for him at this point.
No,
Really?
going from the AAC to the Big 12
But it's Baylor though. Like,
don't matter. Is Big 12 money?
Yeah, I guess
That's a big conference with big pockets
that's true. I
and no oversight. They let you do whatever the hell you want at Baylor.
That's true.
There is nothing. There's no rules. It's the Wild Wild West.
literally.
Xavier
It's literally. For better or for worse. It's wild, wild west out there at Baylor.
is down currently to Seton Hall 75-64 with 3 minutes to go in the second.
Cool. So they're going below that.
They're going to lose that one to Seton Hall. So we had the loss to Villanova. We had wins against St. John's and TCU, and now a loss to Seton Hall, just miring in the middle of the Big East.
Which I feel like is their
That's going to be the story
lot
of the
in life for
season.
most of the time so far in the Big East. Like they flirted with the top there, but for the most part, they've hung out. That 4 to 5 range is where they live since getting to the Big East. Like it just is. I mean, they've tried to, they've pretended to hang out with Villanova a couple of times, but when they've pretended to hang out with Villanova, it's when Villanova was at their national championship best.
Right.
So it was like, oh, well, you're in the conversation with us because you're in the same conference, but really not in the same league generally.
Well, that's the crazy thing. That year that Xavier had that 1 seed, that it was like, oh, this is the squad, and then they got bounced in the first weekend, where people were picking them as the first ever 1 seed to lose to a 16. Like that was the best Xavier team that we have ever seen, and they couldn't get it done. And it's like, I don't know if they will. I don't know if they ever will. They're just always and then you look at the Big East now. Villanova still, in the middle of the pack in terms of the top 25. Butler is in the top 10. Where the hell did that come from? I mean, we were talking about how Butler is the team that always has Xavier's number, so Xavier was likely going to lose twice to Butler. They're a top 10 team now, knocking on the door of the top 5. Butler's going to smash them. So that's 2 losses to Villanova through the year, 2 losses to Butler. Like, this team has got to hope for a deep Big East tournament run in order to make in order to make March Madness. And it's like, I mean,
which is strange to think of because I mean, assuming they finish out this loss tonight, they're at 12-4, which isn't a bad record. But we talked about it before the show started. It feels like many more losses, and this is one of those teams that when the committee looks at it, they're going to be like, "Yeah, we see through those, like more of those wins than the losses." So it's like, even if they have a high win total and low loss total, we're still going to get seeded something.
Oh, we're
low.
not getting a great seed.
Yeah, it's gonna
yeah.
be like, oh yeah, that's cool. 8 seed.
The only thing that I think is going in Xavier's favor is the fact that this season is just bananas. Like everybody is
Sure.
losing, and teams that they shouldn't lose to, they're losing to, and it's like, well, whatever.
And for every week that we've had this show, here we are again talking about Xavier. They're on their best nights, they can beat anybody in the country. On their worst nights, they could lose to the 300th ranked team in the country. I feel confident saying that it's like Xavier could lose to the worst team in Division I basketball on their, at their worst. Like they're just so schizophrenic.
That is such a
cannot
good
figure out.
such a good way to describe this team.
Just a
They
bunch
are-
of ill-fitting parts. It is literally like Steele's doing his best. Like Steele's doing a hell of a coaching job, but I mean he's just throwing things at the wall every night. And some nights they stick, and it looks like they're a powerhouse, and other nights it's like, wow, this team's not good. So it's rough, man.
So the other news that's come out since we last recorded was Bishop is entering the transfer portal. The Xavier freshman was averaging 12 minutes a game and didn't think that was enough, so he is leaving for greener pastures and whatever, man.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Yeah, and I mean it's whatever when it's a freshman too, because they've got guys coming in that could easily replace him. But it's one of the higher recruit rankings wise that Xavier had gotten. But if there's a freshman who's complaining about playing time in his freshman year, and it's like he hasn't been earning more than 12 minutes, and when he's been out there, he's just looked whatever.
Right.
There hasn't been anything that says, oh man, this guy needs to get more playing time. Like, he's a
Yeah.
freshman. If that guy or that kid thinks that he's better off at another school, I'm of the mind, you know what, go. Because you're probably never gonna work out. Like you're never gonna pan out anyway. If the first half of your freshman year you're already complaining about playing time, like just go. Xavier doesn't have time. Like they've already got enough issues figuring out, getting this roster together with what they've got. They don't need anybody who's whining about playing time in his freshman year, kind of mucking that whole thing up. So I'm sure that while they say all the right things in front of the media, that the team is just like whatever. Like, goodbye.
Well, and you've got guys that are on the bench that are coming off the bench as freshmen. Like Kiki is balling out lately.
Sure.
He had an amazing game against St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
What did he hit? Like 5 threes that game?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sucks to lose any of your scholarship players,
Sure.
but meh.
Xavier, and you know what? That's part of the deal. Like us and the fan base in general wanted to get out of the mid-major shadow and wanted to be considered a big-time program. And this is what happens when you're a big-time program. Guys that you recruit that are highly ranked and whatever, sometimes they don't work out and they leave.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if Xavier was still in the A10 and, not getting the caliber of guys that they're able to get and keep and that want to stay, he probably isn't going anywhere. And who knows how it works out. But because Xavier's in the Big East and again, want to be considered one of the elite programs, this is what comes with being an elite program. I mean, Kentucky has guys that transfer out and then go to other schools, but it's guys that are considered, they consider themselves superstars and then go to Kentucky and it's like, well, I'm not getting enough playing time.
Right.
Like, I'm going to leave and go be a superstar at another school. Like, that's what, us as fans, that's what we want for Xavier,
I feel
right?
like this is so. Like the first step is getting those guys to come to your school, which
Sure.
Xavier has done, and now the next step is getting too many of those guys to come to your school,
Exactly.
where they're going to start transferring out.
To leave.
The next step up that Xavier needs to get to is getting those one and dones to come to the school where it's like, we get you for 1 year. Come to us for 1 year because that's the rule until LeBron James' son is in college and they do away with the rule. Until that point, though, we get you for 1 year. Come win a ring here.
Well, I would even settle for because obviously they've proven that it works. The Villanova has the guys that are there 2 years and then they're gone.
Yeah.
These sharpshooters that are just they're highly recruited and then they play their freshman year and they're named guys, but then they blow up in year 2 and propel them to Final Four, national championship, and then they leave. That's the type of
That sounds
I would
amazing.
settle for. Right? Yeah, just get us there. Like, I don't need the guys that Kentucky's routinely getting, Michigan State. Like, just give me the guys that Villanova's getting on a regular basis. That's it. That's all I want.
Well, we'll see how Xavier they closed the gap on that one. They were only down 6 with like 2 minutes to go, so they're closing.
Gonna make us eat it.
I'm fine with that. We'll see. Let's
I'm
do
all right with that.
let's do some hockey talk, and then we'll come back and check on it. Let's get into the Cyclones.
I
I have it go twice. Okay, 3 times.
Just because you pressed the button wrong. Okay, cool.
All right, Scott. Everybody's favorite segment of Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati style. Why don't you go ahead and do that hockey?
All right, well, last checked on the Cyclones, they've gone 3-2-3. They've averaged 2.75 goals a game, and they still lead the Central Division by 5 points. Heading into tonight's game against the Rapid City Rush, Bradley Vale is on a 9-point streak dating back to the 11th of December.
What?
And the team is having an average.
Who was it?
Bradley Vale.
Oh, Bradley.
A name I can pronounce.
Bradley Vale.
Yeah.
What's the goalkeeper's name?
It's actually Brady Vale. Sorry, I can't read. Can't read my own typing. Brady Vale. Oh God, I gotta stop. Oh, good God, I've messed this all up. Team has an average PDO streak at 100.88, but a core side bender averaging 12.5 a game. They have a back-to-back with the Rapid City Rush this weekend. And then next weekend, the big weekend after the Star Wars weekend, Marvel weekend, tried to talk my wife into I told my wife earlier about this. I was like, hey, we should take the boys. And I got a lukewarm reception, so don't know if I'm going to do that. But they play the Fort Wayne Comets.
Can you back up through some of those stats again?
No.
Come on, just real quick. Go
I
back.
have no idea what any of those stats were. So, fan of the show.
So confidently, and I was like, this is like gibberish to me. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, and I wanted to call you out on it, but I was laughing too hard.
I know. I was like, I'm just gonna read through it all real quickly, and he won't be able to like. So
Did you say PDI? Like, what is that? What
PDO, man?
PDO? Oh, the PDO.
You know, the PDO.
Oh, PDO.
Yeah, not the
Oh,
PDI, but the PDO.
I forgot about the PDO.
Yeah. The Corsai
Public
bender.
displays of obnoxiousness.
I don't know what's a Corsai bender. Look, friend of the show, Jim Ballant, told we had spoken just before the Christmas holiday. He's like, I'm gonna throw a bunch of like actual stats at you, so you can just mess with Mike when you come back, and just I'm gonna give you all the stats to make you look smart. And then I proceeded to pronounce Brady's name wrong, so I screwed it all up from the word go.
It's still one. It's still
Sure.
I mean, you sold it really well, man. It
just gonna
sounded
say-
like you knew exactly what you were talking
Well,
about.
and I figured the faster I read it, the more it sounds like I know what I'm talking about.
But let's talk about this Marvel weekend.
I was just
What do
gonna
we
say,
got?
I was like, but let's get back to let's get back to you and I, Sweet Space Marvel weekend. The funniest thing that I saw when I was looking up things before you sent me this, so they're like, appearance by Black Panther, Spider-Man, and I forget who else. There was 3 names, and then right underneath that it said, hero subject to change. I was like, I feel like they're already prompting these aren't who you're gonna get. You're gonna get like the C-level Marvel heroes, because we display all the big guns, but it's like, oh, instead of Spider-Man, you got Squirrel Girl. Like, that's who showed up this weekend. Yeah. There it is. Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Captain America. Character subject to change. I was like, oh no, we're gonna get Hawkeye and Nick Fury.
I don't even know.
Just some black guy with an eye patch. You're like, that's not Nick Fury. Isn't that Samuel L. Jackson? What are we doing here? But yeah, either way, Marvel weekend coming up next weekend. Like I said, I texted my wife this morning. I'm like, hey, we should take the boys, because I don't go to too many hockey games. I've been to enough Cyclones games by myself, but her and I have never been to a hockey game together, and it's not something we generally do. Boys certainly haven't been to a hockey game, and I thought, it'd be something to do. They've got the family pack going next week. You get the 4 tickets for a pretty decent price.
Whoa. 4 tickets to the Friday game. 4 Cyclones Marvel posters.
Right.
4
chicken
chicken
sandwiches
sandwich
for
coupons
Chick-fil-A.
for Chick-fil-A. Come
Right.
on.
Right. No, I was like, that's a pretty good deal. And it's something to do Friday, something different. And plus, I mean, my boys love Marvel, so I figured what better night to take them to something that they otherwise have no idea about than to be like, oh, hey, Spider-Man and Black Panther and Captain America will be here. Maybe. Till we get there and they're like, Dad, who are these guys? I'm like, damn it, the subject to change really screwed me. But yeah.
It's not even like Luke Cage. It's Luke Cage's brother.
Yeah. But yeah, PDO and Corsi and stats stuff. Jim is, when he listens to this, he's going to be so mad at me. He even texted me before and was like, oh, I wish I could listen to this live. He's going to sit there and like, I'm so glad I didn't listen. I've been so mad at you. I look at these stats and then you pronounce the guy's name wrong. You loser. So yeah, I ahead of time, I'm sorry, Jim. We tried. I did at least sneak past Mike, like he thought it was real. So
I knew it wasn't real.
No,
whole
I know.
time.
But I'm saying like I at least had you like reeling because I was rattling it off so fast. So I played that part well enough.
All you did was make me laugh to where I couldn't question. If Joe was here, he absolutely would have been like,
called me out.
He would have been like, what's
yeah.
that? What's PDO?
Yeah,
What's
Joe would have ruined the whole thing. But it's what it is.
What's curbside check-in? What's that? What's that mean?
I'm sorry, Jim. That's doing that hockey. Brought to you this by this half black guy.
I got pause it before it plays like 9 times. It's gonna keep playing. I don't know what I did. I switched over from the board to a phone, and it just keeps
Doesn't matter
playing.
what we do. That hockey segment's my favorite.
It is so good.
Absolutely beautiful.
I feel like we should almost lead off the show, but we're not drunk enough at the beginning of the show. So doing that hockey always fits well to end the show.
I was just gonna say, I don't want to mess with success. Ending the show with this hilarious. So it's like we're a little bit more serious.
My worry is that people are like, oh, these guys are like, they're into it a little bit. Like, this guy might be a little crazy about the Reds, but like they kind of know what they're talking about. And then it gets to doing that hockey, and people are like, oh no, they just dumb. They fake it.
Ignore the first 45 minutes of the show. Oh, Xavier finished.
Xavier lost by 12.
So much for closing the gap.
There's that. This has been another show.
Welcome to 2020, y'all. The Bengals are undefeated in this decade.
Boom! Oh, snaps. I would hit the rap air horn, but it would stop the outro music, so I'm not going to hit it. Bam, 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 bam.
Oh, man. They're on the clock, too.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Good times.
Be sure to follow the show in between shows at Craft B Sports. You can follow Scott and hit him up with all of your sweet hockey knowledge at ScottyK_Jr.
Give me all the inside stats.
Follow me.
I'll be sure to read through them wrongly on the show.
Follow me at Mike Burlon. You can follow Joe at JoeGoalie4. Tweet at him. Tell him to get better because I can't handle this seat. He needs to get back here ASAP. You guys can hit up the drunk line anytime you want and give us all your sweet Cincinnati hot takes. 440-37-DRUNK. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to tell your friends, subscribe, rate, review. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers, everybody.
Brady Vale.